It's a non-issue that has to. You not be accused of focus on pay raise. I mean, it'll still come out. I mean, I got hit for it in the last election for.
All right, I'd like to call this March 11th meeting of City Council to order. Councilwoman Parker, will you please give the invocation and lead everybody in the pledge? Oh, I'm sorry, Scott, jumping ahead, gentlemen. Madam Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Councilmember Gregg.
Here.
Councilmember Shealy.
Here.
Councilmember McBride.
Here.
Councilmember Mitchell.
Here.
Councilmember Brady.
Present.
Councilmember Gregory.
Here.
Councilmember Waring.
Here.
Councilmember Seekings.
Here.
Councilmember Tinkler. Councilmember Bowden.
Here.
Councilmember Appel. Councilmember Parker. Mayor Cogswell.
Here. I'd now like to call on Councilwoman Parker to please give the invocation and lead everybody in the pledge.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. If we can just bow our heads and take a brief moment of silence as we pray over our city. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America,
and to the republic
which stands one nation under God,
indivisible, liberty and justice for all.
All right, before we get started on presentations and recognitions, we have a very special group visiting us with here tonight. Scout Troop number 50 from downtown Charleston up in the balcony here. Let's give them a warm city welcome. Y'all gonna have a test on this after it's done. I just want to know. All right, first up with regards to presentations and recognitions, we have a proclamation honoring Women's History Month. So I'd like to call on Tricia Curie, I pronounced that correctly, Jennifer Brown, Carolyn Wright-Pichet, Hilda Gadsden, and Dr. Amy Castle-Rogers to join me up here on the podium. Yep. Absolutely. Good to see you. How are you? Very good to see you. Thank you. Comment? Whereas Women's History Month began as a national celebration in 1981 when Congress requested the president proclaim the week beginning March 7, 1982 as Women's History Week. Congress continued to pass joint resolutions, and by 1987, after being petitioned by the National Women's History Project, designated the month of March 1987 as Women's History Month. And whereas between 1988 and 1994, Congress passed additional resolutions requesting and authorizing the president to proclaim March of each year as Women's History Month. And since 1995, proclamations have been made celebrating the contributions women have made to the United States, recognizing their specific achievements. And whereas the National Women's History Alliance designates a yearly theme for Women's History Month. The theme for 2025, Moving Forward Together, Women Educating and Inspiring Generations, and celebrates the collective strength and influence of women who have dedicated their lives to education, mentorship, and leadership. Through their efforts, they have served as an inspiration for all generations, both past and present. And whereas throughout American history, women of all ages, classes, and ethnic backgrounds have made countless and valuable contributions to the growth and strength of our state and nation, both chronicled and unrecorded, whereas comprising a significant part of the labor force working inside and outside of the home, women continue to play a critical economic, social, and cultural roles in every segment of life. And whereas women played a critical role in the establishment of early charitable, philanthropic, and cultural institutions, and currently make up the majority of the volunteer labor force throughout the world. And whereas recognizing critical weaknesses in the fabric of the nation, women have acted as catalysts for change and have served at the forefront of major progressive social movements, advocating for important causes like abolition, emancipation, civil rights, and women's rights to vote and gain equal opportunity. And whereas the city of Charleston would like to thank and would like to acknowledge the city's Commission on Women and all its members and thank them for the important work they continue to do to improve the lives of women in our community. Now, therefore, I, William S. Cogswell, Mayor of the City of Charleston, do hereby proclaim March 2025 as Women's History Month. Somebody like to come up and say a few words? Okay. Take my notes away.
I am not acting mayor tonight. Thank you on behalf of the City of Charleston's Women, Commission on Women. I would like to say thank you so much. And just a brief introduction of just the three of us here. We've got some online, but we really are excited about this upcoming year and all of the changes and initiatives that we definitely want to bring forward to council and to the mayor. So thank you so much. As chairwoman of the City of Charleston's Commission of Women, I'd like to introduce my other fellow commissioners.
Dr. Amy Castle Rogers.
Dr. Hilda D. Gadsden.
Jennifer Brown.
Let's go. Over the middle there. Stand on the side here.
Right. Thank you all. Continuing on that theme, we have another proclamation honoring women, this time Women in Construction Week. And I would like to call, is Kristen Kraut in the audience? Okay, come on up, come on up. Absolutely. Whereas the Palmetto chapter of SC number 385 has distinguished itself for 7 years as a voice of women in construction in Charleston. And whereas the work done by the Palmetto chapter of SC number 385 has benefited Charleston through the community development and educational programs. And whereas the Palmetto chapter of SC 385 has unceasingly promoted the employment and advancement of women in the construction industry. And whereas the construction community, represented by Palmetto chapter of FC 385, has been a driving force in fostering community development through renovation and beautification projects, promotion of skilled trade careers, and positive vision of the future. And whereas the Palmetto chapter of SC 385 has sought to achieve successful results for Charleston and the surrounding areas in a cooperative spirit with other organizations. Now, therefore, I, William S. Cogswell, Mayor of the City of Charleston, do hereby recognize the Palmetto chapter of South Carolina number 385 and its many dedicated volunteers for its steadfast work on behalf and support of women in construction, and do proudly proclaim the week of March the 2nd through the 8th, 2025 as Women in Construction Week.
Thank you, Mayor and City Council members. As you can imagine, being a woman in construction is not the easiest thing. So we definitely appreciate your support, yours, Mayor, and also all the support from our fellow neighbors here in the city of Charleston. My name is Rebecca Mitchell. I work for Sunbelt Rentals. So I work very closely with contractors within the city, just planning construction projects and also supplying them with their equipment and their needs that they need. So I'm also on the board of directors for the NAWIC Palmetto chapter. So I definitely appreciate it, and thank you so much for the opportunity.
Our final proclamation tonight is to do with Lights Out, a special program that the Audubon Society of South Carolina provides. Is Jennifer Trill. Join me up on the dais here. Nice. Whereas every spring and fall, millions of birds travel through the Charleston area on their migration, and millions stop to refuel in our maritime forests, marshes, and green spaces. And whereas 80% of migratory songbirds travel at night to avoid daytime predators and to use celestial cues for navigation. Whereas migrating birds are affected by light pollution as it disorients them, making them vulnerable to collisions with buildings and structures. And whereas 60% of birds that strike buildings and structures at night often die as a result, including those that appear to recover and fly away, days later often succumb to their injuries. And whereas research has shown that eliminating non-essential interior and exterior lighting between 11 p.m. and dawn can prevent collisions. And whereas Charleston is a city that is known for its natural, cultural, and historic beauty and charm and values the birds and wildlife that call it home. And whereas Charleston and the surrounding areas are one of the fastest growing in population in the country, and with increased development comes increased light pollution. Whereas Audubon, South Carolina, and the South Carolina Audubon Society affiliated chapters support Lights Out programming that encourages state, municipal, residential, and commercial building owners, operators, managers, and tenants to turn off, dim, or redirect excess lighting during the spring and fall bird migration months to provide safe passage for the birds migrating through the Charleston area. And whereas reducing light pollution benefits mental and physical health in humans, benefits insect populations that are in decline, like fireflies and other beneficial insects, and allows for dark skies to enjoy stargazing. Now, therefore, I, William S. Cogswell, Mayor of the City of Charleston, do hereby recognize Lights Out Charleston Nights, proclaiming this period of March through May and August through October as Lights Out Nights in Charleston, South Carolina, encouraging all residents, community partners, and business owners to help protect birds between dawn and dusk every night between March and May and August through October. And I'd like to say a few words. Let me get my John Hancock here.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. I'm Jen Tyrell. I'm an ornithologist with the National Audubon Society based here in South Carolina. And I want to thank you for listening to this proclamation tonight about turning our lights out during migration season. And thank you, Councilmember Ross Appel, for helping me get this up here. We just appreciate everyone's openness to turning lights out. It saves energy. It helps our personal health and mental health. And it also saves hundreds of birds because millions of them fly over Charleston every spring and fall. And every year, every bird population is declining by a significant amount. And so we need to do everything we can to help them not disappear forever, because a lot of people come here for the birds. Am I right? All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Absolutely. Councilman Waring.
I know he's not on for a proclamation, but our colleague, Councilman Bowden, Stephen Bowden's been through a whole lot in the last 2 weeks. And true to his commitment to our community and in this city, he's on council meeting today. So I think we should at least give him a round of applause.
Thanks, Joel. I really appreciate it.
It's on. Huh? All right, we're now on to council approval of the minutes for the February 25th. We have a motion probably seconded. Any further discussion? If none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. I will now on to citizens' participation. Madam Clerk, how many people we have signed up?
We have two.
We have two. We'll give them a minute and a half.
All right, the time is a minute and a half. Mohammed Idris.
Mohammed.
Anthony Bryan. And if you're online, you can unmute by pressing *6. Anthony Bryant. All right, I think Mr. Idris was here earlier, but
All
right, so we will move on to the comments that we received. We received 6 comments from Mr. Bryan, and those were sent to council in full. Annie Sinton is opposed to the rezoning of property at St. Philip and Radcliffe Streets to accommodate a parking garage. J.C. Davis is opposed to the new timeline to be proposed for filming permit applications. And those were all the comments we received.
Okay. Well, moving on now to petitions and communications. One thing that is not on the agenda, but I wanted to just give everybody a quick heads up on is we've had some positive momentum forward relating to 993 and 995 Morrison Drive with Charleston County. They have tentatively accepted our offer on our unsolicited offer on the parcel. What I propose we do is discuss this, some of the details on this in community development, which is in next week. I've not spoken to Chairman Mitchell about that, but just since he's out of town, wanted to let him know that I wanted to put that on the community development agenda and then bring it to council for broader discussion. So that's where we stand on that. Moving down the line on petitions and communications, there are 4 appointments for consideration. One is on the Charleston Basin Flood Action Committee. There are 3 are for planning related boards that are being fast tracked. And I think that's it, right? A motion properly seconded. Any further discussion on these? This is for all of the appointments for approval. Any further discussion on this? If none, all those in favor signify by saying aye for approval. Opposed? Ayes have it. Now I'd like to invite Trish Curry back up to give us a presentation on the latest efforts for the Commission on Women. Is she stepped down? Yeah. Moved it where? Yeah, use the mic there, yeah.
Is this timed? Okay, all right, I'll be quick. Well, good evening, everyone. Good evening, Mayor Cogswell, again, members of City Council and esteemed guests. I am honored to stand before you today on behalf of the City of Charleston's Commission on Women, an organization deeply committed to advocating for the advancement, well-being, and equality of women in our city. Our mission is clear: to ensure that the voices of women are heard, valued, and reflected in the policies and decisions that shape our community. Our work is centered on empowerment, ensuring women have the tools, resources, and supportive environments they need to thrive personally, professionally, and economically. Whether advocating for pay equity, affordable childcare, affordable home ownership, or economic development opportunities for women-owned businesses, we remain unwavering in our commitment to improving the quality of life for all women in our city. Our commission stands as a dedicated advocate for women's advancement. As you continue your work as city leaders, we ask you to consider: how do the policies you pass impact women and families in our city? Are we doing enough to create pipelines for women to step into leadership roles in public service and private enterprise? And most importantly, are we building a city that our daughters, mothers, and sisters can see themselves thriving in today and in the future? The Commission on Women exists to amplify the voices of women, influence policies that promote equity, and advocate for programs that enhance the quality of life for women and families in our city. We cannot do this work without your partnership and continued commitment to fostering a city where everyone, regardless of gender, has opportunity to thrive. We come here today just to put two initiatives in your thought. First, we are requesting two key initiatives that demonstrate Charleston's continued leadership in being kid-friendly, family-centered, and women-supportive city. First, we are requesting that the City of Charleston officially recognize October 28th as the Equal Credit Opportunity Day. This day holds significant importance in the history of women's rights in the United States. On October 28th, 1974, the Equal Credit Opportunity Act was signed into law, making it illegal for creditors to discriminate against applicants based on gender or marital status. A momentous win for women's financial independence. However, the fight for economic equity continues, particularly for women of color, single mothers, and women in small business ownership. Second, we are advocating for the availability of breastfeeding pods throughout the city of Charleston in public spaces. As you know, Charleston has long been celebrated as a family-friendly, kid-friendly city, a place where families can thrive and children are embraced as part of our cultural and social fabric. Yet for many breastfeeding mothers, the lack of safe, comfortable, and private spaces to nurse or pump remains a challenge. We are requesting that the city take a bold and leading step by championing the availability of breastfeeding pods in public spaces such as parks, libraries, city buildings, public event spaces. These pods are already in places in many progressive, family-centered cities and have demonstrated a profound impact on the comfort, dignity, and inclusion of breastfeeding mothers. By supporting this initiative, Charleston can set a national example of what it looks like to be a city that truly supports families and working mothers. This is not just about convenience. It is about equity, dignity, and inclusion. God bless you. It is about supporting mothers who make the brave and selfless choice to breastfeed their babies and making sure they feel welcomed and supported in public spaces. Furthermore, this effort would align the city's vision of being a family-centered city that prioritizes the well-being of its residents. We urge you to consider the installation of breastfeeding pods throughout the public spaces to support working mothers, visiting families, and local residents. In closing, I just wanted to remind everyone, we meet every fourth Monday at 4 p.m. and we warmly invite each of you to attend, engage, and hear directly from the women we serve. We also look forward to working alongside you to move forward these two key initiatives. One, officially recognizing October 28th as Equal Credit Opportunity Day, and two, championing the availability of breastfeeding pods in public spaces, ensuring that Charleston sets the example as a kid-friendly, family-first city. We thank you for your leadership and your service and your dedication to making Charleston a place where women and families thrive, feel supported, and are heard. We look forward to partnering with you to make these initiatives a reality. Thank you.
Now we are on to consent agenda items. No action needs to be taken on Committee on Human Resources, but wanted to give Councilwoman Parker opportunity if she had anything you wanted to add.
No, unless there are any questions.
Okay, moving on to Committee on Recreation, same thing.
Okay, unless there are any questions.
Now moving to committee reports that do require some action. I'd like to call on Councilman Shealy to give us a report on Committee on Public Safety.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We've got one item on here that I think is going to be brought up later on the agenda, Madam Clerk. Am I right? Item O, maybe? No, I'm sorry.
Fire Station 20.
Right.
Yes, that will be at, I think, at the end of the agenda. Yes, sir.
Okay, so I don't know if we need to vote on this here to come out of committee or if it's just going to be voted on.
I think it'll be at the end of the council agenda under miscellaneous business, but the other items, the mutual aid agreement and the code enforcement officers, they need to be
Okay,
voted
so they
on.
also,
Yes, sir.
okay, great. All right, so we had with the police department, we had well, first of all, we met February 18th at 4 p.m. We had approval of a law enforcement assistant and support agreement with the City of Columbia Police Department. We had appointment of code enforcement officers, Richard Annewald, Assistant Fire Marshal, Derek Carr, Assistant Fire Marshal. And we also had our Police Department Executive Summary. And we'll have that presentation for Fire Station 20 later in the agenda. So I do need approval for that report, please.
Move. We have motion made, probably seconded. Any further discussion on this? Councilman Gregg?
Yeah, I'd just like to thank you, Mr. Mayor. We've been trying to get Fire Station 20 replaced for, well, since I've been elected for 3 years. It's in really bad shape. If you haven't been out there, you know, I encourage you to go look at it. So thank you for your leadership on this. It's been stuck in the quicksand or whatever for a long time. So glad to see this is finally like making some progress and we got a chance to move forward. So thank you.
Absolutely. Yep. Any other comments? If none, all those in favor of approval, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Moving on, I'd like to call on Councilman Mitchell to report on community development.
Mr. Mayor and Council, I would like my co-chair, Councilman Gregory, to take over in case my Wi-Fi is going in and out here. So I don't want start something and it's jumping off because so we having little problems here in the hotel. So I asked him to take it over for me.
Okay.
Thank you.
McGregor.
Mayor and council, the Community Development Committee met on February 20th, 2025. Under old business, the mayor gave us a presentation on the concept of the rapid housing options. And I reiterate concept. We did not approve the rapid housing program yet. The mayor wanted to get a bit more buy-in from other municipalities. And as a result of the discussion, we had already approved the Tech Center / Hope Center. So we came up with combining the rapid housing concept with the Cunnington Avenue. With Cunnington Avenue approval was to replicate the current Hope Center, but with additional functions. And the committee voted to approve the concept. And I move that we do so as well. We had, under new business, we had additional discussion on the Cunnington Avenue. We keep calling it Cunnington Avenue, but it's really not on Cunnington Avenue anymore. We have put the affordable housing units on that site. And so we did have a discussion with regard to the new Tecklenburg Center / Hope Center. And that was approved, and we did some groundbreaking at one point, but we'll probably have to do that again where the new site is located. We also had a presentation, which will also require approval, on the accommodation tax revenue housing impact analysis. My review of the housing impact analysis shows that it was really thoroughly done, Mayor, taking into account the comprehensive plan and other planning documents, including the consolidated plan, where we gleaned a lot of the data from in order to develop the action plan, which was a prerequisite for us being able to utilize the accommodation tax revenue for affordable housing. Am I correct so far? Okay. We also talked about the updating the comprehensive plan amendment for the waterfront redevelopment, more specifically to include the Union Pier site under that plan. That's all that we discussed. There are a couple on here that really need an approval, especially A and B, II and III. So moved.
If I may, just wanted to get clarity, and I think what we're saying is the same, just want to make sure for the record though, with regards to the rapid housing concept, the idea is to combine the programming that was originally approved and planned for the Hope Center / Tech Center, which has been planned for Cunnington Avenue, but in the new location to be able to potentially accommodate the rapid housing as a component. Just for credit. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, we're in the same place.
Yeah. All right. I just wanted to make sure that that there was clarity there. So on that motion, you've moved for approval, and also on the approval of the guiding principles for the comprehensive plan as it relates to Union Pier as defined. And then the third one was
The housing impact analysis.
to accept the housing impact analysis. So we have a motion made, properly seconded. Any further discussion on this?
I do.
Oh, yeah.
She had
Sorry.
her hand up before me.
you want to?
Yeah.
Okay, Councilwoman Parker?
Just to be clear, are the votes coming out of the committee, or are we voting again to adopt to combine the Cunnington Ave and Rapid Housing concepts?
We're voting committee of the whole, yes.
Okay.
I don't know whether we do it today, but maybe at another time. I'm a little confused between what we approved at Connington Avenue under Mayor Tecklenburg and we voted on as a council and what we're doing now. I understand we accept the concept, so I mean, I'm gonna support that, but maybe get a little bit more, I guess, something on the site plan which showed Cunningham now versus.
Yeah, we'll provide that, but basically, in short, the previously designed, let's just call it Tecklenburg City, which is the building that
Right.
was named by council in honor of Mayor Tecklenburg, didn't really accommodate or have any facilities that would allow for rapid housing to be a component of it. It was a 9 to 5 operation that was set up that did have a room in the middle of it that could be used as a temporary shelter, heating or cooling shelter. So what this is doing is taking that general programming and the concept that was approved for the Tecklenburg Center and looking at locating it in the site that the city owns next to the city ops building that could accommodate the rapid housing as well. And what we want to do is get buy-in from the other municipalities and counties to contribute to this, because as we discussed heavily in community development, trying to do something like this really won't work unless there is support, both financially and just generally from the neighboring municipalities and counties. So really taking a collaborative approach. There's a lot of work that needs to go into this to figure out a final product, but showing support from the city of Charleston, I think, is a critical first step to getting other people and other groups to buy into. So that's the general idea.
Just to follow, next to one follow-up, Councilman Mitchell. I know it's your district, so, well, let me yield to him. That's his district, so I'll yield.
No, I was asking, the only thing I'm gonna ask, if this doesn't materialize so far as the other municipalities, then it's not gonna work and we wouldn't be able to do it. So we would have to end up going back to the Cunnington Avenue property to see what we can do. I know we started out with that, but then we didn't have enough money to complete it in the first place. Although we did the groundbreaking and we did everything, all those kind of things there, but we didn't have enough money to complete the housing portion of it. And if this doesn't materialize with the rapid housing, we don't know how it's going to go if the other municipalities don't join in with it, because we as a city can't do it alone. And maybe we might have to look at the grounds there if we can have some other housing there that we can kind of interchange it that way. I don't know if that would work or not, but we're going to have to look at some bold steps in that direction if this doesn't fare out with the other municipalities, because I heard some other things for the other municipalities that they're going to start doing their own. So I don't know how that's going to fare out, but that was coming to me. So we got to look at that very seriously. So that's what I want to just kind of throw that out to you, Mr. Mayor.
Sure. And I think from my standpoint, what I would encourage council to, let's try this, move forward, be unified in this effort, or as unified as, hopefully have the majority. Let's see where it goes. I've got meetings on the book with the Sheriff's Office for Charleston County, the Sheriff's Office for Berkeley County, municipalities, and the neighboring municipalities and their leadership, as well as county meetings. So let me report back to council on what the feedback is. And hopefully we won't have to come up with a plan B. We can keep moving forward on plan A. But I think we all agree that this is a pretty critical issue that needs to be addressed in some form or fashion.
Mr. Mayor, one thing, have we checked to make sure that with the housing so far as all males, there's not anything that dealing with discrimination so far as that's concerned? Have we checked? to make sure that we wouldn't come up with any problems if this occur? Just ask me a question.
I think we need to get the buy-in from the other municipalities. They may insist on other components being brought in. Who knows? We just need to have their buy-in. It's just, let's get it moving forward and then get their insight and input. And then we'll work through all the legal angles as well. But I do know that nationally, there are plenty of examples of all-male housing that hasn't run afoul of any sort of federal restrictions. Yes, Councilman Ware.
Thank you. Back to Connington Avenue. So after the tech center, the warming room and all of that, I thought there was some excess property that some apartments was gonna
There is an excess piece of property there that will accommodate housing. The question is, what type of housing will it be? It's certainly in our inventory in terms of the city for future housing. Would it be transitional housing potentially that could feed off of the rapid housing? Could it just be purely workforce housing or affordable housing? That's to be determined, and certainly will be coming back to council for consideration. But no real definitive plans on that. Nothing has really changed from where it was previously. Okay. Yep.
Mr. Mayor?
Yep. Councilman Gregory?
Yeah. I mean, what may speed this up a bit is there is the Mayor's Commission on Homelessness, isn't there? Don't we have a commission? And that commission, Mayor, has already approved, if I'm not mistaken, the new tech center. That's already been approved. So it might be quicker if you go to your commission to try to see whether or not there's buy-in for the rapid housing piece of this.
I have done that. I've met with them. I've met with the board of the Hope Center as well, extensively actually. And there's general support for this. Again, details to be determined. They're looking for more specifics and who else is buying in, kind of what we've all been asking for. So this is just a first step. We then got to get the other groups to buy in and then bring the details back for consideration.
And just for more clarity, the Tecklenburg Center is for families, males, females. Everybody would be able to participate in that.
Yeah, but the Tecklenburg Center was, again, not a place where you spend the night. It is a daytime facility.
But there will be beds.
No.
There are no beds in the new tech center?
No.
Then
They were never designed to have beds.
So we won't have a warming center in the city of Charleston?
It was a large room that could accommodate beds, as I understand it, but there are no beds or facilities or bathrooms for people to stay more than a night during an emergency or something to that effect.
Right.
Okay. We've got a motion made to approve these three items, properly seconded. Any further discussion on that? If not,
just
Councilman
one comment,
Ryan.
it's all one motion, is that right, for all these things? I'm gonna abstain because I don't like voting that I received a brief presentation. Just on principle, I'm just gonna abstain.
Talk about accepting the ATAX. Okay, so.
Yeah, the Bloomberg.
Understood.
Can I make a motion that we separate the items?
Yep. If you would amend the motion, then Councilman Gregory.
I make a motion for item 2A, which is the rapid housing. Do I hear a second?
Second. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
I'm gonna abstain.
Okay. So all ayes except for one abstention. Councilman Gregory?
Yes, B-double-I, small double I, the accommodation tax housing impact analysis.
Accepting of this report. We've had a motion probably made, probably seconded. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Abstain.
Ayes have it. Councilman Gregory?
And the last one is B-triple-I, updating the comprehensive plan for the waterfront development district.
Second.
Motion made, properly seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Good discussion. We are now on to, Public Works. Councilman Waring.
All items you see on the agenda that were actionable passed unanimously, and I so move the adoption of the report.
Second. We have motion made, properly seconded to adopt all items. Any further discussion on this? If none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Now I'd like to call on Councilman Gregg for Ways and Means.
Move for approval.
Oh, sorry, did I miss that?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. Sorry, Councilman Seekings.
Okay.
I skipped a page.
Move-
Calling
move.
Councilman Seekings.
Move for approval.
Second.
I have a motion made and properly seconded for, I guess, I'm sorry, traffic and transportation.
Mhm.
Just
Yeah.
a couple things really quickly. There are two actionable items. One was turning of Senate Street from 2 ways to 1 way, which is in Councilmember Mitchell's district. And after a long and arduous process, we did vote in favor of moving forward the RFP process for 6 more medallions for pedicabs. I just want to let y'all know the vote was not NOT unanimous. So with that, we did get lots of great updates. By the way, and I just want to let you know a couple things. Our rideshare program, which we've now had 2 generations of, you'll remember, for those who've been around for a while, we had Holy Spokes, which is a local company that ended up getting bought out and bought out and bought out. They couldn't provide us the service anymore. We now have Lime. Their contract ends in May. We had a presentation from them at TNT. If you got a couple minutes, you might want to go watch it on YouTube because it is very telling as to the service that we are not NOT, not getting from Lime. We had a very brief follow-up conversation on the telephone. I believe Mr. Mathis was on there, Mr. Somerville was on, and I was on while driving to Charlotte. It didn't really clear up a whole lot for me anyway, so we're going to meet with them in person. But between now and May, we're going to see if we can't reach some agreements with Lime to provide better service day in and day out for the bike share program in the city of Charleston. The other thing I want you all to know is, as you know, you all have approved a pilot program on King Street for rideshare pickup and drop off. We've extended the pilot program a couple of times to try a couple of new things, one of which was Calhoun Street. That has been very very successful and has made Calhoun Street more accessible and safer. We are going to have that come back to TNT at our next meeting to make the program permanent. So if any of you have any input or comments about that program and would like to see any adjustments before we make it permanent, please report back to us or come to the TNT meeting next time. There are going to be a few adjustments, moving a few parking spaces and allowing some more room for rideshare. But my understanding is, having not heard from everybody, particularly Council Members Mitchell and Gregory, who share in this district where it's happening, that businesses have liked it, customers have liked it, the city and our public safety team have really liked it. So it has been a successful, and by the way, adjusted along the way program. It has really been exactly what a pilot program ought to be. We've made adjustments along the way to bring ultimately something back that I think is much better than when it started and very good for the city. So that's probably longer than I wanted to be. And if any of you have friends on James Island who are freaking out about North Sterling Drive going 1 way, it's not going 1 way anytime in the near future. We have explained to the residents along North Sterling Drive, there is a process by which sort of self-determination takes the lead. If they get a petition with 75% of the residents or more, they can bring it back to TNT for debate and public hearing. We will then make a decision on it. But for now, there is no petition. There will be no public hearing until that happens. So thank you all for indulging me for a few minutes. I do move for adoption of the report, particularly on Senate Street, and with less enthusiasm on the pedicabs. Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor.
Yeah, Councilman McBride.
Just one comment. There was to be a presentation by CCSD at the TNT meeting. It was postponed essentially till the 25th. So I expect to see that happen hopefully on the 25th.
Yep. And my only comment is I was one of the no votes on the pedicab increasing the decals. I just think we have plenty of pedicabs, don't need any more. So I'm not in favor of that and will vote accordingly. So we have a
Mayor?
motion made.
Mr. Mayor?
Sorry, Councilman Mitchell?
Councilman Sickings, that gentleman that usually come to the council meeting always talking about this, he didn't get a decal or something. Was he in that meeting?
No, sir.
No. Has anything transpired with him yet?
Other than we've gone through a very long and drawn-out process of making sure that our program is in compliance with all requirements and with insurance requirements locally and in the state. We are still at metastasis on the number of decals that are out there. What this RFP will do is allow him and any other citizen who wants to get in the pedicab business to bid on 6 additional nighttime decals, which will take the number, and my lawyer's looking at me over here if I say something wrong, the number from 30 currently to 36 on the street full-time at night. So that RFP will, if this passes through tonight, will be tended to by our legal department and by Mr. Cooper's office. And we will then receive the bids and unseal them and see who the lucky winner of 6 additional decals.
And if it doesn't pass, it will be dead.
We'll stick along with 30 plentiful act.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
With that, I would suggest maybe we break this up, this vote up.
There are 2 things that need approval. The one is the 2-way at Senate Street, 1-way Senate Street.
Okay.
So why don't we move for approval of that first?
I'll second that.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, on that Senate Street, they came to me and I had them to go to Mr. Somerville. They went to the neighborhood association. Neighborhood association agreed to it. And that's how they came about on Senate Street because of the way the traffic is in that area. So that was one street that they talking about. Another street that's going to be coming forth to Mr. Somerville. So I'll get with him later on that. But it's a little short, small street. It's just 1 block long, but it's really congested. And if you park on that area with two-way, you can't get through the street. So it's so small. So that's why that came about in the neighborhood association. They approved it, and along with me, and they were satisfied with it. Thank you.
Okay.
And I might point out that Councilmember Mitchell did such an excellent job of constituent service and bringing all this information to the neighborhood that when we had our public hearing, it had lasted exactly 0 seconds.
Right.
So there was no opposition. The community was behind it. So Councilmember Mitchell, thank you for getting out ahead of it and making our hearing as successful and importantly, as short as it was.
Okay, we have a motion made, probably seconded, Councilman Waring.
Listen, I'm not on public safety or TNT. The chairperson is not for the 6 decals. Can you expand on that a little bit for some of us who are not on that committee?
Sure. Can we vote on Senate Street first?
Yeah, let's
and then
vote
we'll
on
do
Senate
that?
Street and we'll pick that up.
Okay.
So we have motion made, probably seconded on Senate Street. And if there's no further discussion, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, ayes have it. All right, now can we have a motion just for discussion to,
Whatever the motion might be.
all right, we have a motion made, probably seconded for presenting the RF.
For moving
Yeah.
forward, again, I think for a 3rd time with the decal RFP. Is that correct?
RFP, yeah.
Right. So if I might, Mr. Mayor and Councilmember Waring, just to make a very long and tortured history as short a story as I might be able to do, and anyone can jump in here and correct me when I'm wrong. When I first got elected to city council 15 years ago, y'all get a fill out, pedicabs actually were on their way out the door. It was suggested that that wasn't such a great idea, that we needed to have an alternate form of transportation on the peninsula and the tourist district. And so we approved a program that has been fairly successful. It hasn't been perfect, but it's been fairly successful, where we basically bid out during the day 15 medallions to be able to operate and up to 30 at night. They're now divided equally between 3 pedicab companies, 10, 10, and 10. Somebody this is pre-COVID, so 5 years ago today minus a week, because I think COVID hit almost 5 years ago exactly today, had the bright idea that maybe we needed a few more medallions on the street. There was no clamoring for it by anybody. We just
put it out there. And then we had this long and tortured history about pedicabs, insurance, the need, and all the like. And what has become readily apparent to me anyway, living on the peninsula and watching as this program has advanced and others have advanced, and how tourism has advanced post-COVID, that while the pedicabs serve a very useful purpose, there has not been a clamoring for more of them. If anything, there's probably been some sentiment for less of them. So in order to meet a balance there, my vote is to leave the program where it is until there's actually a call for more pedicabs. Now, I get it that there's been a single individual who has come here for a number of years complaining about the manner in which we've administered, not the program necessarily, but the additional medallions that we approved. There is no guarantee that any individual or company, if we put these out for bid, is going to get them, right? It is an open bidding process. It is whoever it is. So whatever we do tonight, it's not for any individual person or not, but for the greater good and for the needs, wants, and desires of the Peninsula of Charleston when it comes to the mobility, safety, and how we share our streets. The need for more pedicabs has not been called for by the people that we represent, which is our constituents. And I will tell you that my constituents, notwithstanding the fact it was me who brought it forward, really would like to see less out there. And we're going to rethink tourism management, I do believe, sooner rather than later through Bloomberg. I saw Josh in here earlier.
Yep.
I think that'll be something that'll be taken up, is how we share our streets and what's on them. So anyway, putting more on the street is the reason, or not doing that is the reason I voted no. Right, I understand. Councilmember Waring asked me to explain my vote, and I did.
Councilman
And I will
Parker.
continue to vote no.
Councilman Parker?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So we're 30 decals currently, 3 companies have them. Are they on a yearly basis? Do they come up for rebidding?
They're on a 5-year contract.
So 5 years, where are we on that 5-year loop?
We're in year 4.
Okay.
We're in year 4. 4, sorry.
Okay. Councilman Gregg?
I voted to approve this. My perspective is, and we all know this, we've had some individuals that represent pedicab companies come here week in, week out for the better part of 3 years, saying that they see a need in the market. It's impossible for us to know exactly what the market needs. Government's not good at that. We all know that. But we have some guys that are willing to, some individuals that are willing to put their own capital at risk to go try to do this. Who are we to say that there is or isn't demand? They're willing to put their money on the line. So I voted to move forward with it. If there isn't a demand, then these companies they won't survive.
Well, if I may, I think there's a demand. It's just whether or not residents want it. I think, it's just like, do we want to add more carriages or tour buses?
Aren't they restricted in where they can go though?
They are restricted, but the restricted zone is, the non-restricted zone is pretty broad. I mean, and that's something we're going to need to think about.
So, I mean, then if it's an issue of where the pedicabs are going, then I think we could handle that by another ordinance to restrict where they can go. But I don't see any reason to restrict the number of people that can actually engage in this business.
Well, just to be clear, I get that. And I mean, your vote is your vote, and I'm with you, but this isn't guaranteeing more people are getting in the business, okay? All right. It's not.
Okay. This has been well discussed. Any further comments on this?
Member Waring, I appreciate that.
If none, all those in favor of this RFP signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Nay. Looks like the ayes have it.
Yes, there are 2 nays, Councilmember Seekings and Mayor Cogswell.
All right.
And that concludes my report.
Councilmember Mitchell, I'm sorry, were you a nay as well?
You're on mute.
You're on mute, Councilmember.
Abstain from voting on this one.
Okay, thank you.
He is invoking the 400-mile rule.
Right, right. All right, all right. All right, no other, conversation or, sorry, guys, long day. No other comments related to traffic and transportation. We'll move on to Committee on Ways and Means.
So move.
There we go.
As amended on
As
number
amended.
4.
As amended on number 4. We have seconded, motion made, properly seconded as amended. No further discussion. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, ayes have it. There are 7 items up for second reading.
Move to take those 7 together for approval.
All right, look at that. Brady rule. Motion made, properly seconded to take all 7 together and approve them. No further discussion on this. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, ayes have it. And there's always this complicated thing I'm supposed to say after. For, shall these bills pass, the titles thereof be changed to ordinances and be ordered engrossed for ratification. Motion mode, properly seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, ayes have it. Now we get to the point in the meeting where I talk slowly.
One bill up for first reading.
There's one bill up for first reading. And y'all can think about that for a minute. We have executive session. Oh, we do. Okay, we have a motion on the bill up for first reading.
Mr. Mayor, could you explain that, on the bill for third reading, you are creating Department of Development Services? What is that going to be about?
I think we've already voted on that, but
I just want to get some background.
yeah, that is something that we talked about during the budget process. This is something that Mr. Keene presented on to help facilitate. Mr. Keene, if you want to come up and give kind of a brief explanation on what's going on there. But this was, again, discussed and was part of the budget from last year, a new position on this front. Go ahead.
Mr. Mayor, council members, as the mayor mentioned, we discussed this in the budget conversation that led up to this year. And it's a new department. It'll consist of some pieces of the former public service that were involved in permitting and development review processes. That includes buildings and inspections. It includes the engineering division, which was part of public service. And we're going to work to bring all of the services that we provide to anybody developing or building anything in the city of any scale, whether it's a big development or it's an individual house or the addition to a house, make those processes as simple to follow as we possibly can. And the purpose of this department is to make sure that is so. So, Councilmember Mitchell, that is the role of the department, is to provide all those services. And we are in the process of recruiting a director for that department.
All right, thank you.
All right. So we've gone through for first reading. First reading, do I have a motion? Motion made, probably seconded. Any further discussion on that? Councilwoman Parker.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. While I do support this, this is the first I'm hearing of it, and kind of like the city's reorganization. I'm concerned why this, why didn't it go to human resources for discussion? If we're creating a new ordinance, a new department, I think it would have been appropriate to bring it to Human Resources Committee.
I got you. Well, I think, given this was discussed pretty, presented, I guess, to the council as a whole when we were going through the budget process, but I think moving forward, we're certainly
We still can.
in this kind of scenario, have it come to human resources. Yes.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, why don't we,
Send it.
I don't give it first reading, send it to Human Resources.
Send it there.
And between seconds.
We can give it first reading, move for approval, and then we can bring it to human resources. Fine with me. So we have motion made, properly seconded.
Quick follow-up. While I think I do appreciate it, and I don't need that. I mean, I understand the department. Like I said, I agree with this. And I think in searching for the director, that might hold it up because we only meet quarterly. So
Oh,
But they met every month, but-
again, I'm happy to support the motion if everyone feels there needs to be further discussion. Again, we're creating a new department. I just think it should have come to Human Resources.
Yeah, it's more breaking up some of the other departments and moving some things around. It's kind of part of this larger reorg that is still a work in progress. I mean, we're working through different things and figuring out what works, what doesn't work. But bottom line is, this effort is to provide better customer service, better service in general to our constituents, to businesses that come, because I think you all get plenty of comments from folks about how exhaustive our process can be sometimes. So this is purely an effort to help on the customer service front. So I think Councilman.
Just very briefly, I mean, I think Councilmember Parker brings up an excellent point. I also applaud her for recognizing that this is something we do need to keep moving forward on. I think in the future, we need to be sensitive that things come through the committees.
Sure.
But I don't think we probably want to slow down Mr. Keene, because I can tell you, I think everyone around this table hears from our constituents about the efficiencies or lack thereof at certain levels of our government, and anything we can do to make it more efficient as quickly as we can, efficiently, would be really great. So,
Okay. So Councilman Waring.
I don't want to slow it down. I didn't realize y'all met quarterly, but if you chair that, can you call a meeting so we can, in between the first reading and second reading, and kind of discuss it?
We could, I mean, again, we could, but
Good. I don't think we would slow it down.
I support it. I don't want to
Okay.
slow it down. If y'all support it, if you feel like there needs to be further discussion, I'll be happy to call a meeting, but
Human resources. It wouldn't slow down at all. It wouldn't
I
slow down at
support it.
all is what I'm saying, Mr. Mayor. We give it first.
But
reading.
I mean, I think it's a good move if
Gets the process.
I'm indifferent. So we have a motion made for approval,
First reading.
first reading, and maybe we could discuss this
And
again
send it
for
to-
second reading. Okay. So all those in favor signify by saying aye.
all right.
Motion to send it to
Okay,
her.
I'm sorry.
Mayor.
I'm sorry, I didn't see that.
Yeah.
Let's go with Councilman Bowden.
I'll just be quick. It occurred to me in the conversation whether it should go to a committee that the HR committee might not necessarily have jurisdiction over that. I mean, I don't think that's like a, super strict idea. It's not like a court of limited jurisdiction or something, but when we propose some change like this, we might need to add somewhere that it a committee that it reports to on city council. Because I just don't see anywhere that it sort of neatly folds in to what exists currently.
Again, the main thing was that we needed a budget for it, a budget item for it. So that was part of the budget proposal and plan, and it is approved in our budget, this position. It was discussed back in, I think, October and November. And so that was where I thought it had been, I guess, approved as a body of a whole. I'm not going to get into the technicalities of whether or not it should go 4H or which committee. If you all, typically from my perspective, if you all want it to go through a committee, I'm generally happy to do that. So I'll leave it up to council's discretion. Councilman Gregory.
Oh, yeah. I mean, Mayor, we'll probably have to do that, not just with this one in terms of which committee it goes to. because we have sort of made some changes, but you're only shifting functions. You're not creating any new function at all. You're just trying to consolidate like functions under one umbrella, if I'm not mistaken.
Generally, yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Right.
So any further discussion on this? All right, we have a motion made, properly seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. All right, now I'd like to call on Ms. Dinwiddie to give us a brief presentation on Fire Station 20, and then we might be going into executive session.
I'll take one. Yeah, we can see.
If I could get one, because I'm gonna sit down here.
So we had a public safety meeting on the 18th of February. Mayor did a great job giving the presentation on the selection or the options for Fire Station 20. We just wanted to give a full presentation for full council so you can make an educated decision on this one. Melina's going to start us off.
Thank you, council members. What we've prepared for you today is a brief presentation on some potential properties that we think would be suitable for a future permanent home for city-owned Fire Station 20, which would be located in the Cainhoy Peninsula area. Just to give you guys a bit of background on where we've been and where we are at currently. We do currently lease property, which is the site for our Fire Station 20. It's a lease that was entered into January 1st, 2010. It was initially just a 3-year lease because the plan has always been to build a permanent station for that's city-owned. That lease has been amended multiple times, and it is currently set to expire at the end of 2026. It is a 3,000 square foot metal structure building on a little over half an acre lot. And as has been discussed previously, it's kind of outlived its life. It's never meant to be a permanent station. Around 2018, the city began negotiations to purchase property about 1.35 acres that was going to be located within the Cooper, I think it's Cooper Town development or Town at Cooper River. This is off of Enterprise Drive. The negotiations began in 2018. The city entered into a bargain sale agreement about halfway through 2021. And at that time, we were expected to close within 120 days. Here we are, over 3 years later, and in November of last year, the city decided it was in our best interest to terminate that BSA and locate a new site. The site that we had under contract to purchase just was not going to be suitable for what we wanted to do for Fire Station 20. The Cainhoy area is a little unique in how difficult it has been to select a site that's suitable. And just to give you guys a brief overview, generally the criteria that we're looking for is number one, we are considering location. The city needs to properly spread out its fire stations to ensure that we have quick response times for emergency services. The general rule is that we want to be about 2.5 miles between stations to maximize the efficiency of response. We also want to be close to main arteries, main roads, again, for efficient response times. As far as size goes, we are generally looking for at least 3 acres for the size of the site. This is to accommodate not only the station itself, but room for growth in the future if we wanted to expand to 3 bays, also to accommodate apparatus, support vehicles, as well as our own stormwater drainage. It would be preferable to be able to store that on site, especially not, having to rely on somebody else for that. Another consideration that we always look at is whether or not the site is located in a floodplain. If this is an emergency service that we're providing to our citizens, we don't want to end up being an island. If we cannot get on or off of our site, we really are not doing any good for anybody. So floodplain consideration is always a big one for us as well. Access goes in with location. Preferably, we want to be able to access the site as well as those main arteries and get on the road so that we can get there as quickly as possible. When we're talking about access, signalization is also one thing that we look at it's an important thing to look at when we're looking at access, especially on Clements Ferry Road. And finally, zoning is another consideration that we look at. Is it already in the city of Charleston? Is it eligible to be annexed into the city? If it's not, and is the current zoning something that would allow for the intended use? So applying these criteria to the Cainhoy area and Station 20, first we're talking about location. So coverage areas, planning for the future, where are other future stations going to be, and what is the response time going to be from the location that we select. So just briefly, the map on your left is showing the coverage areas for the existing Station 20, which is located on Daniel Island. The Station 18 is on Daniel Island. Station 20 is what we're talking about today, and this is the anticipated coverage area for that station. As I mentioned, we also have to plan for the future, and in the long-term plans, we are also looking at adding additional stations 22 and 25. Station 22 would be located ideally close to Jack Primus, and Station 25 would be close to Nellie Fields. Fire Station 21 will be on Cainhoy, and as I mentioned, Station 18 is on Daniel Island. So when we consider that 2.5-mile spacing between these stations, the target location that's really ideal for Station 20 is going to be north of I-526, but south of approximately Gemetta Lane, I think is what it is. So this is our ideal target area for Station 20. Again, flood zones is a huge consideration. We're very much trying to avoid the FEMA AE zones, which is a 1% annual risk of a high risk of flooding. This has special requirements when it comes to construction that may require flood proofing. I believe you would also be required to have the ground level be at least 2 foot above the floodplain. We've discussed flood proofing a lot with our stormwater department. One of the issues with flood proofing, again, is you kind of create an island, right? We could flood proof the building, but that's not allowing access to and from the site, which is what we need in these emergency situations. So when we apply the floodplain layers in this target location, what happens is you see the inventory drastically reduces. And we have a very small area of high ground here that would be suitable for development. Again, site access is hugely important. It's a preference that the intersection would be signalized. If it's not already signalized, we would definitely want to explore that option. At the very least, have the ability to install emergency vehicle signals. Another thought about site access, and I guess I really should say getting off the site to wherever the emergency is the distance from Clements Ferry Road. Ideally, we don't want to be any further than 1/4 of a mile from getting onto that main road so that the guys can get, or the fire men and women can get to where they need to be. I mentioned signalization. What's interesting about this target location is that there are currently no signalized intersections other than getting on to 526. We do have a good idea, though, that we anticipate Beresford Run in Clements Ferry to potentially become a fully signalized intersection. So we do find this as a good ideal location to be able to use that intersection to access Clements Ferry. There'd also been some discussion about potential for, I believe it's Marina Drive. But again, we do feel that Beresford Run would likely be the most likely location for that. Finally, we come down to zoning question of, is it in city limits? If it's not in city limits, is it eligible to be annexed? In order to be eligible to be annexed, you have to be contiguous to property already in the city of Charleston, has to be approved by council. It can't be already in another municipality. So when we look at what could possibly be annexed into the city, what I've done here, possibly inartfully, is I've put red over all of the properties that are not eligible for annexation. So again, that leaves us with the green properties that are already in the city, the white properties that could potentially be annexed, and then X'd out all of the ones that aren't eligible for annexation. So what happens is, once you add all of those layers together, we look in this target area, we take out all the floodplains, all the properties that aren't eligible. We consider things like distance from Clements Ferry. Staff has identified 4 potential properties that could be suitable for the city to pursue acquisition of for future Fire Station 20. I'm going to turn it over to Julia.
All right, I get the fun part. Let's talk about the 4 properties that actually qualify for this particular site. The first one is Enterprise Drive, actually, where we were looking to build a pad in the back part of the property. This is a 3.5 acre site that's right up on Clements Ferry Road. It's currently planned for commercial, Starbucks, something like that. I do not know if there's a contract in place yet or not for that. The issue with this one would be access to Enterprise Drive, which would be the lighted intersection. Right now, broker price opinion on this one is about $900 to $1.1 million an acre. So it would be about 3.2 to 3.9 million to acquire that one. Can I finish first, or you want to? You sure? Okay, well, I mean, you want to ask a question about that one? Okay. We would assume they do have something in place. Okay, so yeah, that might be the Starbucks. Okay, so we also have 1025 and 1023 LeGrand. These are side-by-side properties. Let's start with 1023. It's 4.4 acres. It's currently being used as an industrial warehouse. It's in Berkeley County. Access would be from LeGrand Avenue to Clements Ferry Road. There's no plan for a light going in at that intersection. 1025 LeGrand also on the same street. It's 5.5 acre site, industrial as well, Berkeley County. Same access issues, LeGrand to Clements Ferry Road, no signal. The price per acre on these is about 1.6 to 2.81 million. So we're looking at 8.9 to 11.4 million for these purchases. So then we get to the fourth one. Directly across Clements Ferry Road from the Lat Purser site where we were originally looking, you got 22 acres here that's currently being used and leased for truck storage. It's landowner lease to a company out of Florida. They're subleasing to a trucking storage company. What we are proposing is we take the top 3 acres, which is on high ground. It's parallel to Clements Ferry Road. And there's a plan for a signal that's going to happen at Beresford Run or directly underneath it at that next intersection there, which I can't see that without my glasses, but. Right. So in essence, what the mayor said much quicker than we did at the public safety meeting, sorry, Mayor, is this would be the ideal site for us to put a 3-bay fire station in here. And in fact, staff actually did configure it to show that we could get a 3-bay here with adequate parking in the back. With the trucking company in the back, they would keep that middle section for truck storage. We could give them an easement to Clements Ferry Road. So we could work out something in this situation. But what we would ask for is a recommendation or a vote from council for a resolution to allow us to start the discussions with the landowner here on this particular parcel and acquire the property, including all means necessary up to and including condemnation. So if you have any questions, please.
I'd like to make a motion to move forward with the Bearsford Run tract.
Second. All those in, motion made, properly seconded. Any further
Aye.
discussion on this? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, ayes have it. Great presentation. Thank you all. Thorough.
Mr. Mayor, I want to give special kudos for the enthusiasm.
Enthusiasm, I mean, I tell you what. Okay, moving on, we have a few items to potentially discuss in executive session. Can I have a motion to go into executive session? We have a motion made, probably seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, ayes have it. We'll go into my office.
Council members, Bowden and Mitchell.
Yes, don't worry about it.
We got to clear the room. All right, I'll go into my office. Let's keep it consistent. Can I have a motion to come out of executive session? Motion made, probably can I have a second? Motion made, probably seconded to come out of executive session. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Ayes have it. We are now out of executive session where we took no action. And moving now on, with the next regular meeting for city council will be on Tuesday, March 25th at 5 p.m. With no further action, this meeting